Petito was killed by strangulation in August 2021, according to authorities, while she and her fiancé, Laundrie, were traveling together across the United States. They documented their journey on social media along the way.
Gabby Petito never goes outside.
Laundrie returned home from the road trip on September 1st without Gabby, then disappeared himself. The search for both captivating the nation.
And we're also following these new developments in the growing search for a 22-year-old named Gabby Petito. She vanished during a cross-country road trip with her fiancé.
In October, about a month after Gabby's remains were found, Brian Laundrie's body was discovered in a nature preserve not far from his parents' Florida home, along with writings in a notebook that claimed responsibility for killing Petito.
We're going to get that notebook and those writings that he did have. But the big story here and the fallout from that whole thing that everyone was talking about was that now the parents of Gabby Petito are now suing the parents of Brian Laundrie for what they possibly did, which was hide him from accountability. Let's watch more.
The Petito family has been vocal about their distrust of the Laundries.
Anyone that lived in that house is a coward, and they don't know how to stand up for their actions.
I think silence speaks volumes.
Their silence explained by their attorney, Steve Bertolino, on Top Story.
We've heard from so many people over the last several weeks on this case, but we've never heard from the Laundries, and there's a reason for that, correct?
Absolutely, and I've said several times, I said it over a month ago, the reason you haven't heard from the Laundries is because I told them not to talk to anybody.
The hearing today will determine if a lawsuit brought on by Petito's parents against Laundrie's parents will proceed to a jury trial next year. The lawsuit alleges Laundrie's parents were aware their son murdered Petito, knew where her body was located, and chose not to act.
They had the audacity to express a hope that she would be reunited with her family.
It's pretty disgusting. Now, first, before we go to what's the fallout is and the potential for that lawsuit, some of those excerpts from his notebook that he admitted to doing so, but he said it for different reasons. Let's go to this, because this is what he wrote, Brian Laundrie wrote. When I pulled Gabby out of the water, she couldn't tell me what hurt. She had a small bump on her forehead that eventually got larger. Her feet hurt, her wrist hurt, but she was freezing, shaking violently. While carrying her, she continually made sounds of pain. She wouldn't let me try to cross the creek, thought like me that the fire would go out in her sleep and she'd freeze. I don't know the extent of Gabby's injuries, only that she was in extreme pain. I ended her life. I thought it was merciful, that it was what she wanted, but I see now all the mistakes I made. He continued on, he said, I panicked, I was in shock, but from the moment I decided, took away her pain, I know I couldn't go without her. I rushed home to spend any time I had left with my family. I'm ending my life, not because of fear of punishment, but rather because I can't stand to live another day without her. Sure, so her parents are not very happy about this whole, the revelations about what his parents did as far as hiding this whole thing, but it's a possibility that they actually can't be held criminally liable for this. Here's some details. Because they did not actively participate in the crime, nor did they actively hide him from the police, is what Pamela C. says, a law professor at Florida Gulf University. According to her, Florida law typically sides with families. This means that what Chris and Roberta did with letting Brian stay with them, drive their car, and help them in any way does not break the law. Under Florida law, no, is what C says. That is something that ordinary, normal people would provide to their family members. What about when they knew Brian was missing, but didn't alert police? We know that Laundrie's brought his car home from the reserve 2 days before reporting him missing. She also continued on to say any accusation of deceit would be near impossible to prove. The prosecution said that, you know what, this is not something that we want to spend our resources on to prosecute. Did they do wrong? Probably, possibly, but not to a level that's prosecutable. I don't see how this makes sense, but I don't know anything about the law.
You know, it's really good, I guess, to say if any part of this is good, that this civil suit is currently, moving forward. And hopefully it does go to the point where it is in front of a jury. You're gonna get a much better trial that way. But what could happen in a civil lawsuit is that the threshold, to prove that the family did in fact know that Brian had killed Gabby, that threshold is going to be lowered than it would be in a criminal prosecution. So if they're able to prove in the civil trial that the family knew this, they're obviously gonna go through a discovery phase. They're gonna get text messages. They're gonna get their hands on all kinds of things that this family may have had. If they can use that to show that this family knew that this young woman had been killed and that their son did it, and that they continued to shelter him, not only do they pretty much immediately win that civil trial, that then would open the door for a criminal prosecution.
What else could they be protecting him from?